her reputation far precedes her. This is my first time meeting you in person. I've heard lots of great things about you. Jen Apodaca, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, very grateful to have you.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Jen Apodaca. I have been roasting coffee since 2004. Like many people, I wanted to start my own coffee roasting business, realized it was incredibly expensive, and ended up getting a job as a waitress. And taking small business classes, just waiting for that breakthrough moment when I could start my company or whatnot. And the company that I worked for hired for an apprentice roaster. So I got my job as an apprentice roaster. I worked part-time. I made $10 an hour. And got my start in Portland, Oregon, working for a company that's more known for beer and burgers than they are for coffee. Yeah. So I worked with them for about 5 years, long time. But I was able to learn how to buy coffee, how to work with importers, how to fix broken machines, how to buy new machines and install them, and how to sell old roasters. Pretty much everything that you have to do as a small company. But I really wanted to get into specialty. And I didn't really have an opportunity until I saw a job posting in California for Intelligentsia for roasting and quality control. And I am from California, born and raised. My family is here. I lived in Portland. I had a baby in Portland, and I was really missing being around, family and everything. So it just seemed perfect. I could learn more about the specialty world, which I didn't really know a lot about, and be around family, right? Because it's way easier to raise kids with friends around. Yeah, so I worked for Intelligentsia. I think I was probably their first female roaster, actually. And that was fantastic. I got to work with a lot of people. So we have a lot of mutual friends because of my Chicago connection that way. But it was fantastic. I went from working by myself, isolated in a shed, kind of, to working on a team of like 8 roasters. And being able to hear about their experiences and why they roast the way that they do. And we would do exchange cuppings, and it was just really cool. Really opened my eyes. And then when I left Intelli, I was there for like 3 years, and I started working with Blue Bottle. And that was really cool because they're such a different kind of company with a different coffee menu. I went from like this company that was into competitions and clean, expensive, fancy coffees to a company that is like, we roast dark, we like naturals, we like really nice everything.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, very opposite ethos to an Intelligentsia style.
For real. Like one was like super competitive and like the best, and then Blue Bottle is very much like cardigans and politeness and being sweethearts. It was really cool.
That sounds nice.
It was really nice. So I was their West Coast production manager, so I ran their Oakland operation, which was their biggest roasting operation. That was really big deal. It's a big change for me because I had like probably about 35 people reporting to me. It was like it was a huge experience. Like really, I grew a lot and learned a lot in that time. And then I went and worked for an importer, and I did education for them. That was with Royal, and I helped them launch the Crown. I also do a lot of volunteer work. So I work a lot with the SCA and the Coffee Roasters Guild for about 7 years. Started a hashtag campaign called She's the Roaster. And I support a lot of my friends' projects like Glitter Cat and Matchbook Coffee Project. And I just like seeing people succeed. And it was doing the Matchbook Project that I got to like make a coffee, and and like make the packaging and everything, and I couldn't decide between 3 coffees, so I just did 3 coffees. I made 3 coffee labels, and it sort of like reminded me that I really wanted to have my own business, because I kind of thought that it was beyond something that I could do financially, and it was just seemed like something that I don't know was out of my reach. And so I've been doing Mother Tongue coffee now for it'll be 3 years in June. which sounds crazy.
Yeah, congrats.
But we're doing really well, and that's me.
You were also involved with Pulley Collective as well, right?
Oh yeah, that too.
Sort of in the mix with working with Royal over there. And that's
Yeah, when I left Royal, I started working for Pulley Collective, and that was fantastic because it was pretty much the only way financially I could really start my own business. I worked for Steve full-time running the Oakland warehouse, and I was able to roast my coffee there. So, 2 full-time jobs is how Mother Tongue started.
And do you still roast at a Pulley Collective? Or
I do.
You do?
Yeah, I'm a member now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It's such a cool concept to have that type of resource available. Because if you're talking about being able to roast coffee and just buy green coffee, manage, paying your membership, it seems so much less daunting than buying a roaster, building out a space for a roaster, having all that done.
Absolutely. It does. And, when you start in the beginning, you have to create the product before you find customers. And a lot of wholesale accounts, the people that they buy coffee from, it's like a marriage, I guess, they're really interdependent on each other, and they rely on each other, and they probably have lots of really great experiences with the people that they already buy coffee from. So when you walk in, it feels like you're trying to be a home wrecker kind of.
Sure.
But eventually, I think it took a solid year before people started being like, hey Jen, you roast coffee, right? Hey, send me a price list, So in the beginning, there's some really depressingly small numbers that left me thinking did I make the biggest mistake of my life?
Yeah, especially if I would imagine being used to having seen what was going on at a Blue Bottle, and having your mind wrapped around that type of roaster operation, and then trying to plug in a small business and starting up. It's really, we just did half a bag of coffee. I don't know what it was, but
no, I feel like coffee, there's room for a lot of people. I would say that being in Portland when I was showed me that a market could never be too saturated with coffee roasters. Sure, maybe some companies feel territorial and don't want people, to, I don't know, they feel like they own their customers or something. But honestly, somebody, if they want to work with you, they're going to work with you. They trust you, they want to work with you. And if they don't want to work with you, then you don't really want them representing your product anyway.
That's
right?
True.
And so I think coffee, so I was kind of an anarcho-syndicalist growing up, and the real reason I'm doing coffee is because I was working with the Zapatistas in Mexico, and they grow coffee, and I just wanted to buy coffee from them. So I kind of believe that coffee can be like bread, where there can be a coffee roaster on every corner, because everybody needs coffee and everybody needs fresh coffee. And then that, having more small business is better for people too. I think one of the things I like about owning my own business is the autonomy that I get. I never had that as an employee. Somebody told me when I was starting my business, I was really nervous. I'm I don't have access to capital. I don't have a bunch of money saved up. I had $10,000 in my bank account to start Mother Tongue with, and I still had to work a full-time job. We're a single income family. I've got 2 kids. I live in the Bay Area,
It's
wild
here.
Yeah, it is. But I would say that, I don't know, somebody's having a business is very financially risky, and it's really stressful. But on the other hand, there's a lot of stress being employed by somebody too. It's stressful not knowing if your boss even likes your work, or wants you to even be around, or wants to hear your real criticisms or your real thoughts. It's stressful knowing that you could get fired from your job. It's stressful knowing that you're never going to get a raise. It's stressful knowing that you don't have benefits. And so Sure. I'm just thinking I don't know, how some people when you work at a place and some people become like an assistant manager mostly so that they can write their own schedule. Like that's how I feel about owning your own business. You know, it's like nobody can fire me. I mean, I might fire myself because I'm not good at business,
Sure.
but there is, I don't know, I enjoy that, and I wish everyone can have that. So I'd like there to be everyone to be their own small business owner.
That sounds great. I could see, yeah. I think that could work to an extent. Yeah. So
Well-
you mentioned with sorry to
No, it's okay. I was gonna say it doesn't work for everybody. I mean, I know a lot of people who are like, dude, I just want to collect a paycheck and I want to be done,
Yes.
and I want to go live my life outside of my job. So yeah.
and that was how I started working in coffee too. Was like I didn't have any plans to think about doing anything like that. It was just this is like a way I could pay my bills and,
Right.
and I kind of I enjoy it, and yeah, fell down the rabbit hole eventually. And I think for those people that do sort of go down the rabbit hole, yeah, start your own thing eventually.
Absolutely, and like coffee's for weirdos. Like we're all weird here, you know.
Absolutely.
Like I remember my first year transitioning and starting to like buy coffee, and my friend now, he told me, he's like, coffee is like the island of misfit toys. Like we're all trains with square wheels.
Trains. Yeah. It really is. I mean, the island of misfit. I've said that before too.
Yeah, see, because it's real.
Yep. Going to like a throwdown or a party at Expo. You're like, oh. I remember the first time I did competitions, and I kind of looked around and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is my people.
This is your people.
I don't know
yeah.
if I don't know if I'm happy about it at this moment, but they're all my people. Yeah, and I'm grateful for it. I love it. You mentioned, when you worked at Intelli that you were the first female roaster there. At the time when you were getting started roasting, did you see really many other women or any other women working in roasting?
No, there weren't any other women in roasting, except I think eventually, like maybe a year or two after I was hired, Juliette Hahn was hired in LA. And I think that's it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what happened after, but.
Well, and then in the larger industry around, like outside of Intelligentsia, where you...
Yeah, at that time, okay, so like when I started roasting and I was working for that restaurant in Portland, I remember I had friends who would tell me, they're like, if you really wanted to do coffee, you should work for like Stumptown or something, right? But like Stumptown was not hiring like women roasters, like I think for Stumptown you had to be like a dude, you had to be really cool, and you had to like be in a band or something. But
Yeah.
and I wasn't any of those things. I was not in a band, and I was not a dude. So it was just really sort of kind of like a shitty comment, I guess. I don't know if I can say that word. Sorry.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. And so, getting, I don't know. I think I've been like the only woman a lot, like most of the time. I've been in situations where like at like Coffee Roasters Guild events, like we have this event called Retreat, and I remember being told by a woman who owned a coffee roasting company that women just don't make good coffee roasters because we don't think like engineers or something. And I don't know, like it's pretty amazing. I get told by men who own coffee companies all the time that women are not good at roasting coffee because they can't lift a whole bag of coffee. And I'm just like, nobody should be lifting a whole bag of coffee.
Yeah, and even if you can, it doesn't have anything to do with
the ability to roast it.
If you're sitting at the roaster, all the decisions you make have nothing to do with lifting the bag.
Right.
Yeah.
And then like, so like a chick like me who's like, like 180 pounds, like I'm a strong woman. I can definitely lift a lot of weight. Like I can't lift coffee, but this like 120-year-old 20-pound dude can, it's like, come on, you guys.
Yeah.
It gets really silly. You get told a lot of stuff. So I've been dealing with that throughout like my entire career. And then it wasn't, I think I was the first female roaster at Blue Bottle too. So it's not like just Intelli,
Sure.
But that's kind of why I did She's the Roaster, because I think it was it was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. There was a roasting competition, and it was at SEA Expo. And in order to compete, you had to be there physically in case you won, so you could receive the award.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked, which was really cool, they asked everybody to stand up on stage. And there were 40 roasters, and not a single one was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a judge at that time. And I was like, man, I gotta do something. I've got to encourage some of my friends, because here in the Bay Area, like, actually there's a lot of women roasters, and there's actually a lot of women roasters all over the place, but nobody has this idea that a woman can be a roaster, you know, like they just think of these lumberjacks or something. But there technically are a lot of women roasting coffee. In fact, there was a Bay Area panel where they had like all roasters on there, and there were 6 of us, and we're all women in the Bay Area roasting coffee for coffee companies, you know? Yeah.
I mean, from what I've seen in the past, I don't know the exact timeline, but the last maybe 3 or 4 years, especially when you're talking about people that are having the conversations that are, you know, visible in specialty coffee, I've seen such a huge shift in representation. It's crazy. And I think, I mean, it seems like She's the Roaster has been at the front of the conversation in almost all of those situations. So it's definitely had a huge impact. It's like,
it's been a great impact. I mean, it was just a visibility hashtag campaign. It's not a company or anything. Like, nobody's making money on it. Anyone can use it. And like, it was funny. The first like time we were trying to do posts, like we'd go up to somebody and be like, hey, can I take a picture of you? And or we're like, hey, why didn't you, you know, roast for that competition? And they're like, well, you know, I'm still learning. And I'm like, girl, you've been roasting coffee for 4 years. I'm like, this dude who just came in, he's been roasting coffee for 2 months, and he thinks he's a master roaster. Like, come on, you know, like, give yourself some credit. You're an excellent roaster, you know. Anybody, I think that like a lot of times women, like, they think that they have to learn everything before they can, like, you know, own their expertise. And I mean, look, sorry.
Oh, it's totally, it's okay.
I mean, I'm a perfect example of that, right? I tried to start a company in 2004, and I didn't start my company until 2019, you know? Because I thought I still had shit to learn.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's good to sort of take the positive sides of both of those perspectives. Like, like maybe a lot of men are feeling way too empowered for realistically their abilities. And, you know, I think I was guilty of this when I first started roasting, like, totally. I was like, you know, a couple weeks in, and I'm like, well, I'm the roaster now. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then 4 years later, I realized I don't really know anything about roasting.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a while now.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who, like, they're like, I mean, I've since I hired for lots of companies and stuff, I do interviews and things. And sometimes somebody would be like, yeah, I've been roasting. I started roasting about 6 months ago. I'm the master roaster, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you haven't even done a full season yet. You know, like, just wait till you have all your recipes set for this Guatemalan coffee that you buy from this cooperative. And then next year you get your new coffee, and it's like completely different.
Totally.
And you have to have a whole different strategy to make it taste the way you need it to taste, you know, for your menu. And then you have to employ tactics that you don't have, you know, like, I think, honestly, if somebody wants to use the term, like, I don't even call myself a master roaster, but I just don't actually like the word. I mean, I definitely think I deserve the expertise and the title, like, but I don't know, master roaster just sounds bad. But if you want to call yourself a master roaster, if you want to be at that level, I think that you need to be able to roast any coffee from any part of the world on any machine, you know, like, and be able to make, like, a good product.
The first place I worked, shout out to Joe Davis, a name that I haven't said on this podcast very much. Hope you're well, Joe. He used to title every email he's the roast master overlord.
Overlord.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep. So what are some qualities that you consistently see with good roasters? I'm kind of for people that might be listening in that are like, I want to roast and I don't know like what kind of skills I should start to work on to see success. What are some things that you've seen that make a good roaster?
Well, okay. I think there's the difference between making a good roaster, somebody who wants to roast coffee that they want to enjoy themselves, and then there's being a good production roaster for a company. You know, just to start it off, being a good production roaster for a company means that you have to take your ego out of your head and set it aside, and you need to be really honest about the coffee that you're producing, what you're trying to make, you know, and what it's supposed to taste like. Like for like working at Intelli and working at Blue Bottle, I had to make coffee that Intelli wants to serve, you know, and Blue Bottle, I got to make coffee that James wants, you know, like I got to make. So if you want to be a professional roaster, you really need to get your ego out of the way. Just to make good coffee, I'd say that anybody who enjoys cooking and has the basic grasp of time and temperature can be a great roaster. And maybe having a good sense of smell.
So when you're roasting, are you smelling the beans a lot using the trier?
Oh yeah, I'm a sniffer, definitely.
Cool.
But I know that there's lots of great roasters who do not smell the trier, but I definitely do. Like for me, that makes the most sense for me, learning like how the coffee's developing, being able to smell, like just take like jasmine or something, like after first crack, you can smell jasmine, but it smells like perfume, like there's an alcohol quality to it. And then slowly it like more, that alcohol quality will go away, and then there's more of like a buttery vanilla, but still the jasmine. And it's the difference between like jasmine that you would ingest and jasmine you would like put on dab on your neck or something.
Totally.
You know, and yeah. But lots of people like use, I mean, maybe my eyesight's not so good, so I don't go by looks of the coffee.
Oh yeah, no, I think that sensation that you just described is like exactly what I came, like when I started really feeling like I was understanding what was going on was whenever I sort of started to notice that. You know, it's like, yeah, that right as first crack's coming around.
Yeah. Ooh, did you ever get that feeling where, okay, so I felt, so that moment before first crack when it feels like the room becomes a little bit more humid because the coffee's releasing moisture. Do you ever feel that?
Yes.
I feel that. When I started noticing that, I was like, hell yeah, I got it.
Yeah. More so lately. When I first started roasting, it was in Florida in an air-conditioned warehouse, and most of the time there was no noticeable change in humidity.
That would make a difference.
Yeah, now it's a little more seasonal in Chicago. So, yeah. With Mother Tongue, what types of coffees are you roasting? What do you look for in a green coffee?
Well, let's see. The thing that I look for the most is trying to start a relationship with a producer that I want to make last. I mean, we're not 100% that. Like, there's definitely moments where we run out of something and we're like, oh man, what can we get, you know? And we'll have to, you know, call up all of our friends and find a coffee. But for the most part, I'm looking for people that I can trust, that want to work with us, and I'm looking coffee-wise, green coffee-wise, I'm looking for 84-point coffees, 85 maybe, maybe 86. I'm looking for coffees that are sweet and clean for sure, but that have like one dynamic quality, whether it's, you know, like, I don't know, maybe it's like a real grape flavor or whatnot. I'm not looking for any luxury coffees. I was thinking, so I have a lot of friends that are producers that I've known for, you know, like over a decade. And, you know, and I worked for companies that didn't buy their coffee because it was too expensive. And they're like, oh, well, you know, it's only 85 points and it's too expensive, you know. But the reason they were the price they were is because that's how much they needed that, they had a commitment to the people that they were buying the coffee from to like improve their livelihoods. So when I started my company, I was like, okay, I'm going to pay $1 more than what I know companies pay for 84-point coffees.
Yep.
And in my experience, which is not, overwhelming in green coffee buying, like I've never been a green coffee buyer except for myself. Farms have it's easier for them to produce like 84, 85-point coffees. And when you talk to a producer, like it's about selling all their coffee, selling like 1 or 2 bags of like a really nice coffee isn't going to pay the bills, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, like I want to buy that 84-point coffee. I want to pay $1 above what's normally paid. And I want to buy as many bags as I can because I want them to like not have the stress of finding a buyer. Yeah, you're
looking for ways to make the largest scale impact on each individual that you work with.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I don't know, I mean, it seems to, I mean, I don't know, like if it's, I don't have a case study about it being like super awesome for anybody. I just know that the people that I buy from, they are always calling me and making sure that, they always think about me, like, hey, Jen, let's make sure we book your coffee before we, Anyway, it's great.
What areas of the world are you working in?
Well, I work mostly, like Africa and like Latin America, mostly. I don't really have any connections yet in Indonesia. But most of my friends that I buy from like are in Africa.
And so those were friendships that were formed through your time at Blue Bottle Intelligentsia?
Yeah, absolutely. People
Very
that
cool.
I've met through doing like Roasters Guild and stuff. We did lots of events, and I'd always, importers and exporters, they're always at events, and so you become friends, talk, how's their business, how's their kids.
Totally.
And so now I can be their customer and not just their friend.
That's fun. Those like long-term friendships that can turn into like doing business together. That's cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I work with Janine at J&P, and she brings coffee in from Burundi. And so that's exciting because, I mean, she does really cool stuff. Her coffee's, it costs more than most coffees, and it's very sweet. It's good coffee. And like she has this project, Turi Hamwe. I don't know if you know about that one.
I haven't heard of it, no.
So Janine is known for mostly bringing in coffees that are grown by women producers, which is a big part of the IWCA. And so I think that stigma, like, I think that it can be stigmatized, right? Like, I think with people, they're like, oh, women's coffee, it's a gratuity charity, offering or something. And
right.
I think that sometimes like third wave roasters who are so focused on quality or the best of the best, like they have these weird ideas about stuff sometimes. And I think that her coffee, like the quality of her coffee gets dismissed because she has like an ethical mission attached to it. Yeah. Like somehow it's off the table of delicious or something. So like Turi Hamwe, she has this coffee, and these women, she pays them well because her coffee is expensive, and they were able to like buy their own washing station. Like how cool is that?
Wow.
So like the farmers that she's buying from, she's paying them enough that they're thriving, like their businesses are thriving, that they're able to expand and bring more women into projects. And like, that's what I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of a supply chain that doesn't need to profit off the backs of others, if that's possible, And so I work with Janine. I work with Rosalba of Mayan Harvest, who's like a really good friend of mine. And she's doing super amazing stuff in Chiapas. And there's room for more connections, Yeah.
Looking to primarily work with women producers, female producers?
I don't only work with women producers. There's another farm that I work with in Guatemala called Vides 58, and
yes.
It was
we buy coffee from
you buy
them
coffee
as well.
from them, yeah, right. And so like his mom was running it for a while, but they have this really cool, like, I don't know, like mission for like social impact, you know, for their community. And that makes me so happy, right? And that's also like, and they have delicious coffee, right? So I don't know, like this year I think I bought like 45 bags from them, which is like a big deal for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I find that when it comes to the crux of like wanting to work with people who are trying to empower people that they employ, I find that usually it's women who are doing that work.
Yeah.
Not all women, you know.
Oh,
but,
totally.
But yeah, in generally, like women do that work more than the guys for some reason.
I agree. I don't got any answers about
it's
that
okay.
one. But
I don't think you have to.
yeah. Have you been able to visit any coffee farms in your career?
I have. I mean, I've never gone to a coffee farm to buy coffee. The first time I went to a coffee farm, I wasn't even in coffee. I was on a hiking trip in like on the border of Guatemala and Chiapas, Mexico, and it was more of a tour to go and see the people who were living there and the sort of the effects of what happened to them during their like during the time when like the government was, I mean, like thousands and thousands of Guatemalans just sort of disappeared, and there was like a military coup in the 80s, and this part
because of bananas, right? Wasn't that the
you know,
Chiquita?
I think, I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure it's from all exports, and I'm sure it's, you know, and I'm almost positive it's, you know, U.S. supported
yeah.
and probably, you know, backed. Yeah. But what was happening is people were trying to flee the country, you know, because they didn't want to be murdered. And so they would try and leave and escape into Mexico. And there was government stations all around the border. And they would just do bombing raids and kill people as they were trying to cross the border. And I had a Spanish teacher, and he was from this area, and he's like, we can go through a hike and go and see that. So my first time going to a coffee farm is to go and see this community of people living in these highlands with like no electricity and no running water. And the community was really made up of like no men. Like all of the men were like, it just seemed like most of the men that I saw were maybe like, I don't know, 15 years old or younger. They were just little boys, or maybe some like a couple of really old men, but like their entire, like, it was like an entire generation of men were just completely gone. It was terrible. Yeah. And then there was, yeah, I don't know. So that's my first time going to a coffee farm.
Yeah, that's sort of like the lens with which you saw your first coffee farm.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think I've been to like, I've been on a couple of tours of things with like Coffee Roasters Guild. We went to Costa Rica, and that was really cool. So I got to see a lot of farms there. But I've never gone to a farm being like, hey, I'm going to buy some coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so all of your producer connections have just been through, like you said, industry events that you've met them over the years, and then you eventually, you kind of start with people that you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so I'm interested in this stuff because it is like realistically, for someone like you who started a roasting company more recently, it's really not. You already had the connections with people from before, but then it's not required. It's not necessary to spend resources to go visit these places very much anymore. I mean, we have the ability to digitally communicate with a huge portion of these people. You know, everybody has a cell phone.
That's true.
And I don't know, maybe that does leave out, you know, potentially some of these groups that are some of the indigenous groups that would be without electricity, but not really, because you can connect with other people. Do you think what kind of importance do you see, like in the future, do you see yourself becoming more involved with working at Origin, or do you think that the way that you're doing it like works with
Right.
achieving all the goals that you have?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Okay, I agree, but I don't think that anybody going to Origin or going to a producing country to glamorize travel or whatever is, ridiculous. But I will say that, like, I have like no plans to go to Origin. It's just really expensive. But all of my producer partners want me to come. They're like, come visit me, and I think that going to visit them, like, in a way sort of solidifies like a relationship. Like, you almost have to go. I mean, it's so, like, if you're gonna be friends with somebody, like, at some point you have to like have dinner with them.
And you want to sit down at their house.
Yeah,
have a meal.
Yeah, so I do think you need to do that in order to strengthen relationships. I don't think that coffee should be a charity, so I'm not interested in going down and like starting social work projects that I can glamorize and market. I mean, most people, I don't know. Have you been poor? I've been poor.
I have.
Yeah, right? Like,
I might
have you ever been to that? There you go.
Yep.
You are in coffee. Like, I've definitely been at a point where, like, I needed to make more money in order to be, financially secure, and like financially secure for me is something like being able to go to the grocery store without checking my bank account, or being able to go buy a pair of jeans without checking my bank account would be really cool. Filling up your gas, all those things, right?
Yep.
I'm just a big proponent of paying people and letting them decide what they need. Like, I don't need to tell them what they need. They know what they need.
Yeah.
If they want to build something to improve their business, like, why don't they get to decide what that is? Why would I decide what it is? Like, I'd rather just give them the money and let them come do it themselves.
Totally.
Yeah, just the same way I don't want anybody telling me how to spend my money. Like, oh, here's some money, but you can only use it for diapers or whatever.
Right.
Like, when my friends have kids, I'm always like, here's a gift card and go buy yourself some beer and a steak. I don't care. Like, just buy whatever you need.
Sure.
Like, what you need.
Whatever will enrich your life in that moment. Yeah,
For
it's
sure.
really I don't want somebody looking over my shoulder at how I'm spending my money. So yeah, why would we expect the same of somebody else?
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting thing trying to navigate with, a metric. We've had this project sort of focusing on trying to get, trying to have a transparent supply chain.
Yeah.
But there is a line
hard.
that we keep sort of figuring out how we toe it and how we navigate it. It's like, ultimately, I want to know that with the producers we work with, we want to know that they're paying the farm workers that come to pick their coffee a fair price and
have a nice place to sleep, and they get fed, and
we're looking for above the standard, which is still imperfect.
Of course.
In my head, because it's still like backbreaking work for that.
It is.
In my head, I would want to be compensated really well for it, and I know that compensation doesn't exist. So
well, and they're not going to be able to do it overnight. That's the other thing too. Just like me as a company, I'm not going to be able to overnight pay everybody what I want to pay them. Like, right now we're a small company. There's 3 of us that are full time, and there's 4 of us that are part time. And like, I know what I want to pay everyone. I know how much it costs to live here, but I also know how much I can pay. So I'm very honest, and like, everybody knows how much everybody makes. I don't want to have to deal with any sort of drama around anything like that. And, each year as we grow, we'll get to where we can be to be, a better employer, right? And like, you have to give people space to grow. And I think that you have to do that with your producer partners too. Like, as long as they're figuring it out, I mean, here's another thing, right? Is like, when you're a barista, right, and you work in a cafe, you could make 100 drinks, right? You have 100 times to practice pulling a shot or brewing a pour over, right? And then when you're a production roaster, you probably do, I don't know, like 24 batches. If you're working as a full-time,
Definitely. Yeah, pretty
and
standard.
cupping, about 24 batches, I'd say 24. So you have, so like during the day, maybe you have 5 times to practice that espresso base and, 1 day a week for those single origin coffees. And then if you're a producer, you have 1 shot at making your harvest great. And even if you're a producer for 11 years, you basically have produced coffee 11 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that sometimes, we expect producers to have, like, this repetition in a way that, like, a barista might have, and they don't have it. And there's, like, this immediacy and impatience. I don't know. It's really, the expectations are crazy.
Totally. And what year has the weather been consistent? Especially, like looking back the last 10 years, like that is weather, political conditions, labor access. These things are like very insecure in a lot of these places. And then on top of that, our industry changes all the time. It's like whatever variety wins the World Barista Championship. If you're like a producer trying to participate in that, it's like, let's get some Eugenioides, and we'll hope in 7 years it's
like, you guys don't have a pink bourbon? What's going on?
Yeah.
I don't have any pink bourbon.
I hope
guys.
I said that. Is it Eugenioides? I don't know how to say it.
Neither do I.
I mostly just read it.
I've tasted it once.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But none of these things are easily achievable for coffee producers. You can't just. It's not like being in a cafe when you can just order, like find the pink bourbon somewhere and order it. It takes a long time. So yeah, it's an important point to make. These people are.
Well, it's just like your expectation of like expertise, Like somebody could probably be a barista for like, a couple of months and feel pretty good about being able to dial in a coffee, And then, but if you're, you think about how many times you get to roast a coffee before you feel like you've done it like 50 times. That could be like a year,
Yeah.
It could be 6 months. It depends on your output as a roaster. And so it takes longer for you to become an expert. And then it becomes even longer for, like, I would say, producers to become experts. And so we just have to have, and that's okay, And I think I think that a lot of times people have unrealistic expectations.
At what point do you consider, is there like a year, with your producer relationships where you consider them like a partner? Like, is it the first year that you work with them? Is it after 3 harvests? Like, and for you have a newer business, so like all your
they're all new,
relationships
right?
are new, but
yeah.
To your point about the longer term friendships that you've had within that.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. That's such a sticky. It's a weird thing because, like, if you're a partner with somebody, then that's a big commitment, right? If you're going to be a business partner with somebody, then you're there for the good and the bad. So when they have their bad harvest, you buy their coffee, right? And if you don't, then shame on you. You shouldn't call yourself a partner with them. Or if, I don't know, we're not sharing their risk, so calling them partners is, but it's so easy to say because you're like, maybe collaboration, like we're collaborating with Janine, or we're her customer and we love her, we love to buy from her. I don't know. I don't know if I have like the biggest opinion about this.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. Customer,
that's all you are. You're just buying.
You are, but that's so not cool to say. How do we?
Yeah, but you have.
But it is real.
It's real.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I think that real sort of defines where I see a lot of.
It kind of lowers your if you're just the customer.
Yeah.
It kind of like lowers your power in the situation too.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why nobody uses it. Feels like it's not a led thing.
However, maybe recognizing and assuming less power in that relationship would treat everybody better. If we don't try to step in and pretend like we're a huge support system for somebody that ultimately we're, it's not all that different from going into a cafe and
Right. Like it's just like a coffee roasting company, right? Like there's always that like tension between like front of house and back of house, right? Where like the baristas are like, oh man, the roasters messed it up. That's why I can't make a great cappuccino today or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then, the roasters themselves can be like, oh man, I'm roasting this coffee, but the green buyer bought this terrible coffee and that's why it can't taste good. Like at some point you can be negative like that, and people are for sure, but it doesn't help anybody, Instead, it's better to be like, the green buyer bought the best thing that they could buy that was probably within the price structure and like what we were looking for. And now I'm going to do my best job as the roaster. And then when the barista gets to be like, you know what, the roaster probably did their best work with this, so now I'm going to do my best work. And I feel like, ultimately with a producer, like we're just the customer and they are the ones who are doing all that work. We're just buying. We're just buyers.
We're just buying.
I'm not even great with houseplants,
Oh yeah. Oh, they're houseplants. Mine are actually doing pretty well right now, but now we're in the winter, so Chicago houseplants. We'll see what happens.
Right.
I might not see any sun for a while. I might need to get some grow lights in my living room. We'll see. I think, Jen, we are right about at an hour here.
Yeah, I was thinking we've definitely been chatting for a long time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been great. I am... we've had some Mother Tongue coffee around the roastery, and
cool.
Yeah, we've always enjoyed it. So I look forward to trying more with time, and yeah, I hope to see you around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, super grateful to have had you. Thank you for joining us here on Minor Figures FM.